Elias, Blake. We are transitioning to our next session and welcome Mary Shea. Mary is an operator, analyst, innovator, ex-Forrester in outreach. And this session got probably really a lot of traction, if not the most. So super excited to kick things off. Mary, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm pretty excited about the next couple of days with you all. Some fabulous and important topics to cover.
Amazing. Let's do a quick round of introductions.
Quick heads up on my side, Usher had something come up. So apologizes he can't be here. I'm his co-founder at Bounty. So I will be filling in last minute scratch, but it's nice to meet all y'all.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
What's next?
I can jump in. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Millen. I am the co-founder of Reggie.ai. Reggie has been a pioneer in bringing go-to-market team, AI to go-to-market teams for the last 4 years with the first AI SEP, where predictable outreach meets AI agents. One thing I will say, I've been selling, leading sales teams for 30 years, and I've had the advantage of watching technology coming into the sales process. And you start to see patterns as new technology cycles come in. It starts to solve some problems, and then it creates the new generation of problems that need to be solved. And once again, here we are with AI, solving a lot of problems for us and also helping us think a little differently as we move forward with the technology. So it's great to be here with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. And yes, there are always trade-offs, right? But I look forward to digging into some of those topics a little bit more deeply as we get into things here. Who's next?
I apologize. I didn't give you an introduction. I was just making the statement that this is not my face on the screen. I'm Matt Cooley. I've been in SaaS for about 25 years now. Worked with companies like did the 0 to 120 with New Relic, Mixpanel, Quip, and then Salesforce by way of Quip. Ended up joining Bounty in 2022 as co-founder as we relaunched the company. And Bounty focuses on basically, we started in the position of actually using AI plus humans to deliver outcomes for SDRs and sales folks that can go and find like custom outreach at scale for customers. And we're quickly moving in the direction of also inclusive of the marketer and how they can actually use account-based marketing through AI and humans to be more effective in a holistic marketing and sales approach. So
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, great to see you, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
And I think we've got Stav next to you as well. I remember you from our last session. Great to see you.
How are you?
Great.
And I'm with a cocktail thanks to John's session, and it's already 9 p.m. here, so I'm going to be a bit drunk thanks to John and the cocktail session. I see you have one too. So I'm Stav, co-founder and CEO of Alta. Alta is an AI data-driven revenue workforce. We have RevOps and SDR that work best together. And our approach is data-driven is AI SDRs that help with the outbound work. And my background is I was one of the first employees at Monday.com. I built over there a tool called Big Brain that basically did it before the LLM revolution. So it was like 10x for revenue employees. And in my last job over there, I led the growth organization where I had the privilege to use all of these amazing tools that we built internally. So yeah, we're taking a lot of those concepts into Alta.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stav. And Sam, you're up next.
Hey guys, I'm Sam, co-founder and CPO of Artisan. We're also doing an AI SDR. Ava, she automates the entire outbound sales process. Before Artisan, I was working at IBM on the Watson team, which is one of the first agents that won Jeopardy. And now excited to be working on agents.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think Rohan, we need to hear from you.
You're on mute.
Very classic. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Rohan. I'm a founder and chief product officer at Nooks. Nooks is a Series B company, a startup that builds AI sales assistants for STR and AE teams. One of the unique things about Nooks is we focus on not just email but also calling. So we have a big focus on the phone as a channel for outbound and build agents around calling as well. And my background is I studied AI research at Stanford, and then been doing it since. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Rohan. And Julia, I think I got everybody right. I haven't missed anyone. And as usual, this is a blue chip panel. Did you want to say a few words before we kick off, Julia?
I just realized, Sam, did you introduce yourself?
I got Sam. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. No, then let's just kick things off.
Let's do it. And I love the cocktails, coffee, and water vibe that we get going on here. It's a true global conversation, which is always amazing. So Julia talked a little bit about my background, and I'm not here to give any reveals, but I am in stealth mode, and I can't wait to share my next venture with all of you. And hopefully one of these future conversations, I'll be a panelist, who knows? But hearkening back to my time at Forrester, when I was an analyst there in 2015, I had this really exciting vision about what the world was going to be like for the B2B sales rep. And that vision was in the midst of my friend Andy Hoare saying, it was the death of the B2B salesman or salesperson. And we see that that has not happened. But I was just reading some research by Dr. Howard Dover, a friend of ours from University of Texas, who said in the last 2 years, we've seen the decline of sales reps by about 2 million. And so we are entering in a new generation of selling and buying that is going to be supported by agents on both sides. And I'm really excited to kind of explore some of the technologies that you are using, some of the processes and ways that you're activating and collaborating with AI agents. I have a view that we will have an agent on every team, whether that's a startup, a go-to-market, SDR, marketing, and what have you. And it isn't so much the disintermediation of the human, but it's the collaboration and connection between the agent and the human. And our role as a human is going to be different. We're going to curate, we're going to evaluate, we're going to analyze, but we'll be able to do so much more quickly. And so I'm looking to delve into that today. Let's start with Matt Millen. One of the things I think that's overwhelming for professionals is there's so much buzz about AI and agentic AI, and you don't really know where to start in terms of some of the tools. Like, how are go-to-market teams, or how should CROs, CMOs start to think about evaluating some of these different options to bring into their teams and organizations without getting overwhelmed? What kind of advice do you have?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mary. I would say, one of the things, and all of us on this panel, pipelines are always been a problem and always been an opportunity for revenue teams. I think what's different is that now workflow is the problem. Like, sales workflow is broken. 75% of sales leaders want more rep activity. 77% of sellers don't complete their tasks. 66% of reps are drowning in their tools. And what we've created is doing, less with more. And like, we've got to start with the workflow first, not the solution, but really go back to the workflow of how can you effectively generate pipeline today. And I think there's like two very discrete workflows that we focus on. The first is the tier one workflow, and that's where you put your best reps on your best accounts and they do their best work. And AI agents can absolutely assist reps. Mary, you talked about like the thinking side and the creative side of the work, and the left brain, right brain, and really how can we leverage AI to do more of that left brain work, the list building, the research, and really free the rep up to be creative, empathetic, and have conversations. So that it's that tier one workflow where companies are very focused on either their best prospects or those inbound hand raisers. Like those are your highest converting. Now, they're also like your lowest volume. Like you only have so many of them, so you have to be great every time. The other side of that equation is this other workflow that has been long overlooked, which is the long tail of your TAM. And really, that's the mass number of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 leads, low prioritization, and oftentimes where prioritization is being ignored, signals are getting dropped or ignored. And the beauty is that AI today can help on both sides of that equation. We can free the reps up to do more of their best work with their tier 1 opportunities, and agents can work that long tail of the TAM where you have lower conversion, but a much higher number of prospects to work, signals to induce, and then act upon, and then feed those reps as the signals warrant some direct activity. So I think that's a great place to start. And I think revenue leaders are, really looking at their workflow first because they understand that what their reps are doing today is broken and we have to fix that first.
Yeah, great points. I've taken two threads from what you've said, Matt. One, which is don't go out and buy a bunch of tools until you've kind of buttoned down on your internal processes and workflows and have those really tightly locked in. So the tech isn't going to solve your problems if you have messy workflows and you're not really clear on how to engage, right? So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that fair to say?
It is fair to say. And again, really focusing on how you want your reps to spend the day and how can you liberate them to be great.
I love that. Liberate your reps. One of the things I thought about back in 2015 was that the role of the sales rep was going to become much more rewarding in the future, and today is the future, than they had been in the past, because a lot of the rote activities that were really boring, the heavy lifting, the repetitive nature of the role, the continuous rejection, not that the rejection will ever go away in totality, but that what you described to me sounds like a quintessential business role. Like you're freed up, you're working with the AI, you're pointing it in the right direction, and you're allowing yourself to have more creativity and more ways to engage with personalization, empathy, and deepen your connections with buyers, I think is what you're saying. So I wonder, if we'll see, I want to see who wants to answer this question, but if we'll see a different type of profile wanting to go into sales than we've seen in the past. Is it going to be, maybe people from tier 1 business schools, or I don't know who has a perspective on this? Matt Cooley, you want to weigh in? Do you think we'll see a different type of rep wanting to pursue B2B sales than we have in the past?
I don't think so. I think the roles will change, the entry points will change. I mean, sales is inherently in somebody's being, right? There's certain, personality types that are great for sales, and you're still dealing with people. And I still believe that people buy from people. I don't think people will ever buy directly from AI. I do think that there's the old product-led SaaS models that, yes, like Atlassian in the earlier days, they claimed they didn't have salespeople, but they really did. It was just behind the scenes. And so there's always a human touch point. And the average deal size of a lead or a deal that came in with human touch was 3 times the size of a deal that came in on its own, and the churn rate was a lot higher, right? So I think that human touch is going to be important. I think the entry point for sales with AI around SDR support will be junior sales roles versus like a lot less outbound. The BDR role in general is dead in a way that not AI is going to fully replace it, but it was totally broken because you couldn't get quality outreach out at scale. So what it turned into was a bunch of cadences through outreach and gift carding to come to demos, and like sitting and waiting for those demos. But the laws of averages were these are all unqualified demos, and it trickled all the way down into the sales funnel and ultimately into closed deals. So the conversion rates suffered. So what I've seen is AI, and we believe in what we've seen, and I've been a buyer of it before. Dumping AI directly on a customer sales team is ineffective, right? And it will get you 70% of the way there, but it's just like ChatGPT. If I'm going to use ChatGPT for anything, I'm still going to do 30% of the tweaking to make it sound human because it's robotic and it's obvious, right? And people have AI fatigue today. So what we do is we have a team of individuals in between the delivery of AI to a customer. We believe that our AI plus our humans will get you to judgment calls on outcomes, right? 5% of the work is on you instead of 70% of the work is on you. And we've seen a lot of success with that. And so I don't think the type of person coming into sales is going to change. I think the ramp time into really selling is going to change. And it's like, this is the way I think about it is it's the old saying of like one person's trash is another person's treasure. You take the bottom 30, 40% of what BDRs are doing today and you shift them up, right? The sales team, the sales reps, bottom 40%, they shift up and you get everybody in the organization gets closer to the customer, right? And I just believe that's a super important part because in the last 10 years, I've seen too much talking about doing the work and not doing the work, right? Too much talking about and preparing to get on a customer call and not actually making the call. And it's just become completely bogged down. But I do think AI is important, but I do think there's an intersecting point between it reaches your customer sales team that has to be tweaked by humans, and we do both at Bounty. And if that is the strategy, you can then put folks right out of college into sales roles because now they're just making judgment calls. And then you can just share the best practices around what's working and what's not working based on how they tweaked it. And now you can onboard people faster, right? And so the ramp time for somebody new coming into a company, the workforce, or into a sales role is a lot shorter, right? So I don't think the personality changes. I think the job changes out of college, which is exciting. That's why they went into sales. And BDR role's hard. This is why it's got a 1-year tenure. You either get promoted or you move, right?
Yeah, it's it is the lifeblood of any selling organization, and it is the most difficult role that's out there. I've done the role, and I've done some demand gen consulting lately, and it is really challenging, especially with information overload and folks being sort of immune to LinkedIn emails, and it's just really challenging to cut through the noise. I do agree with you that there's a level of customization that absolutely has to happen with every interaction in AI. If you leave it as is, it's just not going to work. The human piece of it is so crucial. Stav, I know you've got a kind of a point of view on this topic. I'd love to have you weigh in. Like, how do you see? I guess I could go at it a little bit more with Matt because I do actually think the demographic of the persona of the salesperson is going to change a little bit. I think the sales organization is going to be smaller. I think we're going to have less of the specialization across the cycle, but not about me. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. So, Stav, what are you thinking around AI and how that's going to change the dynamics of the selling organization?
So I think you cannot compare and say that all of the sales world are kind of the same because there are transactional sales and there are named account and each one of those operates completely differently. And what I think is that, for example, transactional sales is going to change dramatically. In the next few years, I think AI is going to take over much more of the work over there, and maybe more of an ops people will be kind of the new sales people of businesses that doing transactional sales. And I think that more and more sales reps are going to be kind of transitioned into more kind of a field sales or named account approach by being more in personal touch with the account, but can manage much more account in parallel because they have someone that helps them and they can do only the human connection, be kind of a strategic advisor to the customer and using AI to support his workflow. So I do think that the people that searching sales world, it's also different from company to company. When I was in Monday, so in the beginning we had a lot of transactional sales. Later on it's so it was very different type of people in the sales than later on. And yeah, so yeah, I think basically that's it.
Yeah, I mean, great point. We talk about B2B sales as if it's a monolith, and it's obviously not, right? You've got high volume, you've got transactional, you have enterprise, you've got PLG.
Yeah.
So, thanks for bringing that up. I think on the high velocity transactional type of selling motion, the salespeople are going to have more of a micro marketer's mindset. Really, that's kind of what you're doing, right? You're micro marketing. And then on the enterprise side, I think you've got much more time to be really thoughtful and to really take that advisor or consultative role to a next level in partnering with the AI and moving off all of the downstream activities that typically would burn all your time, right? So great points on different type of selling motion. Sam, I'd love to get you. I'd love to get you in here. Thinking about some of the types of clients that I work with. And the demand gen work that I'm currently doing, most everyone wants to bring in an AI agent to amp up that process. But what I find is people don't exactly know where to start. How do you know if your team, your org is ready to take that next step and embrace AI in your outbound selling motion?
Yeah, I think there's really two things, and we really felt this at the beginning because we were product led to begin with, and then we transitioned to sales led. So what we learned from that was companies that don't have product market fit yet, they do want to do outbound, but they're not quite ready to do that yet, and they're not going to see the results that they're expecting. So that's one thing. I think a good signal is like tech stack maturity. So if you're already using these automation tools like Outreach and any other sales tools, Clay, and you kind of want to stitch them together, you're wasting time connecting the dots between them. I think that's like a good moment to come look at an AI SDR and put that into place with your team.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. So Rohan, one of the challenges that I have, and I spend a lot of time looking at technology, is just kind of keeping up with the pace of change and some of the new tools that are available. Like, what kind of advice do you have for business leaders and go-to-market leaders in particular for staying on top of what's possible today, as well as what's coming down the path in the future?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, this is why kind of the AI space is so fun and exciting. It's like new models are coming out like literally every month. What is possible today is different than what was possible 2 months ago and what's impossible right now. And so I think it's actually created quite a bit of a challenge for buyers to kind of almost decide like, where do I invest, what's possible, what isn't possible. So I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is at Nooks, we actually invest in doing trials with all of our customers. So I think it kind of breaks through a lot of the skepticism around AI, and seeing, hey, like we actually try to show results with people. So like, that helps buyers kind of build trust and into the solution. I think the other thing is that like as an organization in general, you just need to be experimenting all the time. And so you need to I can speak. I mean, we have a lot of founders here. I'm sure, like, one of the things that we do at Nooks is we have like really short. We don't plan more than a quarter out, because with the technology changing so fast. I mean, you have broad strokes, but you can't actually do that far planning. So it's actually kind of created an interesting challenge for AI companies in general, in terms of like roadmap planning, with the new models coming out. So.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I spend a lot of time following what Dr. Lisa writes about. Dr. Lisa Palmer, who's a leading expert in the world of AI. And she says if you've built your corporate business plan, your strategic plan, your go-to-market plan, and you have your annual plan in place and you haven't updated it within at least 3 to 6 months, you're well behind because so much is changing. So I think we have to be a lot more dynamic and pivot, have those plans, but be willing to break them as we learn and embrace new opportunities.
Yeah. And we've seen actually, like, that's one of the things that I think buyers also look for, is like they almost like want that help from a vendor. It's like who can I work with that I know can just like keep us, in the latest. And so we've actually seen that as part of the valuations is like, is this a company and team that I think will be that partnership down the road. And so that's another thing I think we've seen as more and more of a trend because of how fast AI is going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to just kind of talk about buying and selling at sort of a higher level, and understanding that, there are different buying and selling motions across the board. But how do you all really think that AI is going to play a role in the buying and selling process today and in the future? Stav, you want to take that on?
Yeah, so I can start by maybe looking at this meeting and see how many of the people of this meeting are not real people and are agent. I don't know if you see it in the list of participants. And I think like one of the things that's going to be dramatically changed, it's like that there are going to be assistant that is going to actually be an active part of the conversation. That is going to help you doing the sales. Like I said before, like you're going to be the selling motion going to be more like a strategic advisor. And if you need like kind of a solution engineer that knows the product the best and like know all the features, and of course with a roadmap that's changing every month, and like Rohan said, that plans are changing a lot, so it's going to be much more hard to keep up of like what am I selling? What is the capabilities? Like everything is going to change really fast. So I think like this is something that's going to be dramatically changed. We see it in Alta that we are using the conversational data to feed in the outreach process, like the beginning of the funnel. So like learn from this very precious data of like conversational that selling the pain points that are being tackled in a conversation, and the proof point that the sales people using in a conversation to use this information for better outreach and better messaging and better targeting. So yeah, I think like the data can be much more in use and accessible throughout this process. And I really like what Matt said in the beginning of like where to start, like where a company is going to start with. Like, so it's like small experiment on the long tail of theirs, and then like putting into their larger processes. Because like also like buying and selling process is like going to change a bit. You want to experiment on the small portion, because we're going to a phase where AI product, which is little bit less predictable than the old version of SaaS. And you don't know exactly how well they're going to impact your process. And you want to know, and this is like we are seeing it like I think like in the businesses adoption, and like I think most SDR that I've spoken with doesn't use a tool like us, like doesn't use any AI SDR, and they're using a lot of AI. Like they're using today many tools. So I think when we are moving to an AI product, and the selling process is going to look differently. And I really connected to the Matt's point of like starting like testing some low risk areas. And then like move on to like a real buying. So it's like experimental kind of revenue, and then moving to like a real retention and customer usage.
Yeah, so I think it certainly makes sense to start with a tight, bookended type of experiment, right? So you're not going straight to your tier one opportunities and experimenting, but looking at some of the opportunities that might be, sitting a little bit stale, and seeing if you can rejuvenate them, and so on and so forth. I'd like to dig in a little bit deeper to the data. We always talk about data, but I'd like to unravel that a little bit more. Like what you mentioned, you can get better messaging, you can improve your value proposition, and you can improve customer engagement through really doing deeper analytics on data. So how would you do that? And is it evaluating call information and objections, and tell us a little bit about how you would use the data specifically to improve a customer interaction.
Yeah, so there is like like first year data, I think is the most obvious unused and many time crappy data that companies have, like their CRM as an example. And I think many times when people coming to products like us, they're expecting kind of a magic to happen, like or is it like working a magic, or is it not working at all? And I think that the heavy lifting of like understanding what kind of campaign you want to build, what kind of hypothesis you're coming with. So you need, in order to do it in a right way, you need to have kind of understanding of what business is working well for them today, what businesses are less successful, which targeted persona you're usually targeting. So this is like an example for the first tier CRM data. There is like also a lot of knowledge, like that they're like sales enablement and knowledge that the company is nurturing, which is like blog posts and success stories. So there's a lot of content and sales enablement materials that they wrote for the salespeople to use. So we like one of the things we're doing when company onboarding with us is first of all connecting to their CRM, connecting to their sales enablement materials, and train Katie, which is our AI SDR, based on their data. And then Luna, which is our RevOps, is feeding the hypothesis, giving the insights, and actually help building a campaign and a better messaging. So it's like prioritization is part of it. Like, who should I send first? Because in the end, like you cannot send an endless amount of emails or LinkedIn connection or phone calls every day. So you must cherry pick the ones that, even with AI SDR, like there is not like infinite amount of, you don't want to spray and pray. Like you want to prioritize who is the right audience, like who is the right audience, the right intent, like the right timing for them to buy. And in order to do that, you need to get like what a real SDR will do today, which is use perplexity to understand like the customer
Issues and yeah.
Yeah, so I talked to many SDRs like lately that did not use AI SDR tools because I want to understand like what they're doing that works great, and a lot of them using like researching tool like Perplexity, for example, and doing like all kind of research about what they can understand from third-party data and internal data, like working with their internal team and RevOps to understand what is their hypothesis, who is the targeting audience that they got to manage, and etc.
Yeah, what you just said, Stav, sort of brings me back to Matt Cooley's comment, which is, very short ramp up times and junior folks being able to jump in and be very successful quickly. We've never been able to crack that code. And I think we can now, because basically if you just go to your, whether that's Perplexity or Claude or whatever it is you use, you can immediately understand the issues of the persona, the industry, and drop in a couple of current articles and come up with phenomenal outreach that is perfect for that individual persona. And I've been experimenting a lot with that lately. And I think the quality is pretty high, especially when you start to edit in sort of the human component in the language as well. But I want to put a philosophical...
You cannot do it in mass, by the way. If you want to target, for example, I don't know, 1,000 people in 1 hour, it will be super expensive. Like in tools, like you want to use the audience that you're targeting.
Yeah, the compute costs are scary. I'm learning a lot about that right now. So you do have to be targeted, or else you can run up a pretty quick bill with your provider. But I want to just put a philosophical question out there, and feel free, anyone jump in. But if you're on the receiving end of an outbound communication, it could be email, DM, or even text, and it really touches on your challenge at the moment or a potential upside opportunity, but you kind of know it was probably generated by AI. Do you care?
I do.
Yeah,
Again, it goes back to what I said around people still buy from people. It's creepy to me, and I delete it immediately, right? And the thing that AI can do, like again, AI is going to take you only so far, right? And if you're just sending flat AI emails directly out to customers, it's going to sound like it.
I'm not saying like flat with no editing. Let's just make the
Yeah.
assumption that everyone understands that at a minimum, you've got to add 30% of humanity or personalization in. But, it's almost like the outbound is so perfectly attached to my needs and concerns that I'm like, I'm sure this rep went to, Claude and pulled this out.
Right.
Are you going to delete it? Are you going to hold that against them? Or are you going to be like, well, this
I,
really relates to what I'm worrying about?
I think it comes down to, are you going to open it?
Yeah.
Right. So, and you can tell in the subject line, like for me, there's like a few reasons why I would open an email, right? Very rarely is it trying to like, in a standard format, connect some level of like generic solution, their solution tied to what our company cares about. You're going to either make me laugh, you're going to stroke my ego somehow, you're going
Okay.
to connect with something in my personal life, like where I went to college or I played
Yeah.
baseball, or if you went to the same college, you're going to create FOMO or anxiety for me, but you're not going to catch me on some, you know, headline subject line at all. But if it's a clever,
Your
yeah, I mean, it's clever. I mean, it's just the truth, though. I mean, like, I had an email come in the other day that we're actually experimenting with the sentiment that goes out on emails. It was a haiku, and I was like, this is really clever. Now, the return rates on people actually responding to emails are so low, but that's one if I was going to, I would respond to.
So that's clever, but the rep didn't write the haiku. And do you care?
Well, potentially, like if it sounds like AI, I think actually, you know what? I don't care in that situation because they thought about it differently, right?
Okay. So
And
you
so
want some creativity, some personalization, and some connection to who you are.
that is absolutely personalization, right? It's a choice on how they used AI differently rather than just auto-generating something that's just not going to connect to anything that I care about, right?
Yeah.
They could even use AI to say, here's Matt's LinkedIn, find me something personal that's cool that he might care about.
Yeah.
That's personalization, right? It's
Yeah.
just the person before the AI. So I would open those much
So
more often than I would anything
I
else.
guess what you're saying is you're okay with it, but they better use it to its fullest extent to make me feel connected as a human.
Exactly. And I would know in those scenarios, like the haiku was someone's choice, right? And so they were thinking about it, whether they were using it in a way to connect their solution to the business value of my solution and my company. I'm okay with that approach as long as it's thoughtful and it's different. And thoughtful and different has to come from humans.
Okay, I like that. But it's actually thoughtful and difference probably coming from the curation and the prompting rather than the actual output. But yeah, that Rohan, do you want to weigh in? I felt like you had
Yeah, no, I think
too.
yeah, I think ultimately like I think it does matter whether it looks AI. And then the reason is people just have these like mental spam filters that like will just remove things. And so it's less about whether it's AI or not, or does it look different and does it like catch my attention? And AI can output those things, and to Matt's point, I think you have to, it matters in how creative you are, and like the same, very few plays will work consistently because they get saturated and you have to try new things. And so I think people think that like, AI outreach is just like once you just turn it on, you can just leave it and let it run. And no, you have to basically be constantly working
Right.
it, using it, and like
You have
coming
to
up
you have to
with
mind it.
ideas.
Yeah.
I'll give an example. One of our top converting plays that we ran last quarter, that it was a really simple email, but we are, our enterprise SDRs, they would actually get very unique insights on orgs by calling into ICs at the company. And so, we obviously sell to, sales teams, so they call reps at the team and get information, what's tech stack they're using, what problems they're facing, their Q4 initiatives. And then they would email their boss. And when you get an email that's like from someone's bot, that says, hey, I spoke to these 3 people at your org, and it's like hyper personalized and relevant to what you care about at your role, that had like an insanely high open rate. But if you're
Yeah.
just going to do it based on like what you see in their LinkedIn, like likely
Yeah.
what you see in LinkedIn is probably not that relevant. And so I think AI can help with the outreach. Nooks can actually help automate some of those plays, and we do it quite consistently. But it's all about like I think Steph said it well. Is like the data that comes in has to be. You can only personalize so much as to what data you have, and so if you're like doing a personalization based on publicly available data, you're probably going to sound like everyone else that's outbounding.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah.
So I want to start with the rep first, not the AI first.
Okay.
And I'm sure we have all seen SDRs take 20, 30 minutes to construct a wonderful email that never gets opened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the question is, in today's technology age, like, do we still want to spend 20 to 30 minutes on the perfect email? Can a human write a better email than AI? Sure, they can. But is it worth it? And I think what we wanted, and the AI has gotten to a point where it is good enough to be acceptable to open the door. Research will say even if they don't respond to the email, they're more likely to pick up the phone when you call them. And whether it's haiku or whether somebody wants to be entertained, but I think like we went through a personalization phase that get overhyped and people try to over personalize. And I think what matters most is, are you relevant to me? All of our inboxes are full. I've got way too many unread, but I've always got time for something that's relevant to who I am and what I'm doing. And it's not about where I went to school. It's like, can somebody help me solve the problems that I'm currently trying to solve, yes or no? And I think
Right.
the mind is open, like what you're working on and what you're willing to receive. And I think whether it's AI or human beings or some combination, take the time to put relevant messaging in front of the right persona on challenges or problems they're likely to be facing or solving. That's where I think email can help and not hurt and not over spam and overcomplicate and dilute the process. And AI can help with this today. And I really think back to some of the earlier conversations, we just need to rethink how we want the humans in our organization to spend the time. And is getting that extra 10% really worth it given the open rates today? So I just think these are all just considerations for our brand, for our company culture, how we choose to interact with our clients, how do we want to represent ourselves in the market. But I would start with the rep and like, do we really want to be spending that much time writing emails today when there's technology that can generate relevance and impact?
Well, I agree. They absolutely shouldn't be, right? But they've got to have that, I don't know, find a way to crack that code of relevancy. And I think what we're hearing from others is that basic information that's publicly available, that's personalized, doesn't quite get us all the way there, right? So whether that's a stronger connection to who I am personally or really deeply understanding what I'm worrying about, that's what's going to get you to the opens.
Let me clarify something because I don't disagree. The content of the email needs to be more direct. If you don't open the email, the content doesn't matter, right? And so
Right.
what's going to get me to open the email is the funny thing, is the personal thing, is okay, this is all it's like what's the credit card company where everybody's swiping through and someone pays cash, right? You want that pause moment. It's like, wow, that's different, right? Because I get in this in the morning, I get in the same inbox as you do probably, Matt. And it's just like, they all look the same. Whoa, that one's different. Nothing else matters unless they open it, right? So that's where you have to be creative, and you've got like 4 words, maybe.
I know it's really challenging. Well, we've talked a lot about email. I think there's some real fatigue out there, and we're all challenged with getting those open rates, but it's possible to get them for sure. I absolutely, to Matt Millen's comment, will open an email that is a direct hit to what I'm worrying about or what I'm thinking about, and I respond to it. I may be different than other executives, but I certainly try to respond to as many as I can. But let's talk about like phone, what and DM and other social platforms that are out there. How do you see AI agents playing a role in the call. Anyone want to jump in?
I think I have something that is like combining the two subjects, this one and the previous, that we had an A/B test recently with our phone, like our calling agent. And we like did for half of the people saying it's an AI agent, and half of the people it didn't say. And I think what we saw was like amazed us, that we understood that people have talked really differently, much more direct, tell their intent immediately, ask much more question when they knew that they're talking to an AI. And I think that in some cases, and this is where the places that we need to look at, AI agent is advantage, like even in the customer perspective. So I think like in terms of phone calls, it's like in some of the cases we see it like performing much better than emails because their response rates are obviously much higher. But I think it's also like a lot of issues around like legal and policies in different countries, places that we can take responsibility, places that we cannot take responsibility if this person wasn't ever engaged with the company. So calls, like AI agents for calls works amazingly for some use cases, but it's like much more challenging in terms of like the process around it. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to take a couple of audience questions before we wrap at the top of the hour. And we've got one in right now from Kenny, who says, I'm curious if there's any data that shows personalized outreach based on you as a person, background, school, interests, performs better than personalization based on your role or, business role or customer journey and so on and so forth. We've sort of touched on this, but does anyone have any, results that has anyone ever done any A/B testing on anything like this on the panel?
I haven't seen any data. I mean, mine is just my personal feeling of having done this
Yeah.
for many years. So that's it's my opinion on it. But I haven't seen anything that's broken down. I've never done an A/B test on it or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual human. It's funny because, Matt is like, I want that connection. I want them to know where I went to college, what my last blog was, where, whatever the last point of view I had on a podcast was. I'm more of like, I just want someone to help me solve my business problems now. And that's just I guess, personality difference between the both of us. So it's kind of hard to say categorically what works. I guess you have to kind of experiment a little bit, right? Any other thoughts on this topic? Sam, Rohan?
I mean, I'll say like the data generally shows like relevancy matters more, but like, like your job title only goes so far to show whether it's relevant, right? Like, is this a closed loss that they spoke to you like 6 months ago and now, and now is a good time to reach out. So it's like it's not just like surface level. You do really want to understand like, is this something relevant to their business? I think Matt has a good point that like, you do need to get people to open it in the first place. So you can get creative and get funny and like things like that does help with open rates. And so, data shows that generally speaking, at least like what we've seen with our customers is like it does help. Now you have to do the trade-off. Like other Matt was saying, it's not worth your reps spending 30 minutes personalizing based on open rates. And so like, there's a balance between the two. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I've written a million perfect emails that probably have never been opened in some cases. So what is the secret sauce for the subject line?
I think there's trends and it's changed like dramatically every time. Like I think like I can talk about the current trends maybe. Like we have
Yeah, that'd be great.
like there is one that is like an intro email, but it's not a real intro. So it's like the name of the company and like the name of your company. And the second one is like just a lowercase is like quick question. Like this is like a pretty old one, but like always like work kind of. And there is there is like also another trend which is tag multiple people from the same company, like mention. So this is like actually like kind of trends, and it's like always like updating the trends, and yeah. So,
I have one, and it's
Oh.
so salesy, but it still kind of catches my eye. But it's older too, is which where they put the fake reply follow
yeah.
up, you know, and it just looks like, oh, did I email this person? I'm going to open it, and I almost always open those until like the reply after the reply sign is just like totally generic, right? But that's just an old tactic that I still think kind of works if you're creative after that fake
Right.
reply.
Yeah,
I
it's
think the
interesting.
other thing that,
Oh,
you
go
know,
ahead,
it's
Matt.
not just about the subject line anymore, because many people have a 1 or 2 line preview
Yeah.
on each
Right.
of the emails. So even if it's a very catchy subject line, you very quickly know you're being solicited. I know that we've, worked our models in a way where the first 2 lines are actually the most important, because, can you hook them once you get past the subject line of relevancy?
Yeah.
But I think we just need to be thinking, more deeply, in terms of, are the communications that we're sending out in the first place, are they the right messages to the right people at the right time? And one of the things that we didn't talk about was really the incorporation of signals today,
Mhm.
and how the AI is allowing us to use all kinds of signals in a way that marketing used to invest in and sales used to ignore, and things would fall on the floor between the two teams. And like today, there's just so much more capability and execution between sales and marketing, and using like what's going on and who to talk to at the right time in the right channel. And I think that's changing the game in a big way. We didn't really catch it today, but like it's changing this conversation in real time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one you talked a ton about email, right? And I just feel like the the AI companies are going to stick to generating email outcomes are the ones are probably going to die in the end, right? And there's different ways of reaching out to customers today. I talked a little bit about us moving in the marketing direction. We're launching as a part of our next version of Bounty, um, custom microsites for individual buyer personas at those companies and based on out your solution, and it looks like their website, right?
Wow. Yeah.
It's not just at the company level, it's at the buyer persona level, what they care about in their role as it ties back to the business objectives of the company and how your solution helps them personally. That's the future. Email is not going anywhere. It's not going to take us anywhere. And the open
I
rates
agree.
aren't
I mean,
interactive, and you need to be interactive in a different way. And that's where the future is.
yeah, I agree. I think, there's an exhaustion around email that's happening for almost 10 years now because we've gotten so savvy at using it. But people aren't really even using email anymore. Like when I communicate with my team, it's all on an app, right? And there's only an email if it's something long or more formal, right? So I think that's right. And I love the custom microsites and the deal rooms and having things in my own brand as a buyer. I agree with you that that is the way of the future. Well, I know we've got to wrap up shortly, but I'd love to do kind of a speed dating finale here. If we could go through each person, we'll start with you, Matt Millen.
Yeah.
Tell us, what kind of AI tools are you experimenting with right now? And I'd love to go through everyone and get a bunch of tools out there.
Well, we're using our own,
Of course,
but
right?
I'll share one quick thing and pass the baton. Is that there's a big shift in tools right now. Historically, sales teams have organized around the tool. So before there were tools, we knocked on doors. With the birth of the call center, we organized around the phones. With the birth of sales engagement, we started with role specialization and the birth of the SDR. But it's different with AI. With AI, you don't organize around it, you organize with it. And its technology is a teammate, and reps are working side by side with AI to optimize both sides of the equation. So I would just implore to everybody to start thinking very differently around that you bring technology into your revenue organization as you go forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Rohan.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we use Nux as well internally. I'll add Matt Cooley. I think the email channel is almost, it's just one of the channels. For our customers, phone is actually like 80% plus of pipeline. So I do think, don't think just emails. That's the most obvious one that can be generated with AI, but think how you can get in touch with people in person. Phone is a really strong channel. So there's all sorts of ways you can use outbound. But yeah, we use obviously Nooks internally. It generates more than like 70% of our pipeline last quarter. So yeah.
Awesome. Sam, what are you experimenting with?
Yeah, so I lead the engineering and product team, so mine's gonna be a little bit different, but we use Cursor very heavily. It's
Okay.
sped up our engineering team quite a lot. That's one. And then on the sales side, we use Ava, of course.
Awesome. Stav?
So lately, I'm obsessed with Fin by Intercom, like the support agent. NA10, creating a lot of internal workflows like with NA10. It's an amazing tool. Whoever not used it, like go and try it. Like you can build your own AI agent, like for small tasks, like company updates and stuff like that. Of course, we use like our own tool, like heavily users. Yeah, like Cursor, all of our dev. Yeah, I think this is most of it.
Matt Cooley.
I think I'm just going to follow suit. I think we're all going to say the same thing as we eat our own dog food. In the reality of the world, though, most people don't. It's crazy to think about that. I'll ask questions on a sales call. I'm like, well, how do you use it? And it's just an awkward pause. Like, how do you not use your own solution if you believe in it? We use our own. We also have built this like backbone of our company. We call it Gen Nodes. It allows for us to spin up new companies quickly. We have narrative, we have lead talk. They're all for different purposes. They're very point solutions, but because we can do that externally, we can do it internally. So we build quick, and yeah, we don't outsource any AI.
Perfect. And then I'll share mine. It won't be any surprise to anybody, but I've been experimenting with some of the deep research tools. They're really expensive on a monthly basis, but the depth of research and information you can acquire, and then I've been putting it onto the notes so I can get it in podcast format and listen to my research findings with two people talking, and it's incredible. So it's great to be able to assimilate information through reading and also just listening. So more to come there, but I'm going to pass the baton back to Julia. Thank everyone on the panel for a really dynamic discussion, and I hope that the audience has learned some new things as a result of today's session.
Brilliant session as
Thank
always.
you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. And we are transitioning to our next panel.